Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new deep dive. This time we're taking a close look at the world of statistical assistants. And we're not just talking about what they do, which, by the way, is turning mountains of data into, well, something actually useful. We're digging into how the skills, qualifications, the whole nine yards using some fascinating info from RoleCatcher.com.
Yeah, their take on reverse matching really jumped out at me. The idea that AI could use our skills to match us with jobs, not just our, previous job titles.
Kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Like, imagine having a digital career counselor who actually gets your skills.
Absolutely. It could be a game changer, really.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. But okay, before we get ahead of ourselves and dive headfirst into the future of work, let's rewind a bit and unpack what a statistical assistant actually does. RoleCatcher describes them as these, insight architects.
They take raw data, right? Which, let's be honest, can be pretty overwhelming, and transform it into those aha moments.
The ones that help people make smart decisions.
Exactly. So they're kind of like the bridge between, I don't know, like the language of numbers and, actual human beings.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A bridge between data and decision makers.
And get this, it's not just a desk job. RoleCatcher mentions them working in all sorts of places, like research labs, government agencies.
Oh, and even remotely, which, let's face it, is a pretty big perk these days.
Huge. Okay, so we get it. You need a good head for numbers, but RoleCatcher stresses that soft skills are crazy important too.
Things like communication, being able to explain those numbers in a way that makes sense.
Right, because what good is a brilliant analysis if you can't explain it to anyone?
Exactly. You've got to be able to tell a story with those numbers, make them resonate with your audience.
It's like being a data storyteller.
That's a great way to put it. You might have the most amazing data insights in the world, but if you can't communicate them effectively, they're useless.
So true. Now, let's talk about the tools of the trade. RoleCatcher specifically calls out SPSS and SAS software. Now, for those who aren't familiar, think of these like the statistical Swiss Army knives. They can do it all.
Oh, absolutely. Analyzing survey data, building predictive models, you name it, these programs are essential.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this one time I was working with a marketing team. We were trying to figure out who was responding best to this new ad campaign, right? So I plugged all the data into SPSS, started segmenting, and boom, found this totally unexpected pattern. The people who loved the ad, really loved it, and bought the product, they all shared, get this, a love for bonsai trees.
Bonsai trees. Seriously. You're making that up.
Nope, true story.
Wow, that is wild. It's like you never know what you're going to find buried in the data.
Right, exactly. It's about connecting those dots, finding those little aha moments that can make such a big difference.
Whether it's an ad campaign, a new product launch, heck, even an entire business strategy. And RoleCatcher points out that those data detective skills are only going to become more valuable, way more valuable. They cited some study predicting this, massive surge in demand for data analysis skills in the coming years.
Yeah, it makes sense though, right? We're swimming in data these days. The real trick is knowing what to do with it all.
That's where our statistical assistants come in.
Exactly. They cut through the noise, find the patterns, help us make sense of it all.
It's like they're holding a compass in the middle of a data storm.
Ah, I like that. So true. And it all starts with a solid foundation, of course. RoleCatcher talks about, a bachelor's degree being pretty standard.
Statistics, mathematics, data science, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Though it doesn't end there. Not even close.
Right, because you don't just graduate and immediately become a data wizard,
Yeah.
right? What does that career ladder look like?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, the opportunities are huge. Seriously. You could start as a statistical assistant, and then, who knows, senior statistical analyst, data scientist, even a statistical consultant, advising top-level executives.
Wow, talk about a career path. Okay, so you've got the degree, you're building your skills, but how do you actually land that statistical assistant job in the first place?
Well, nailing that interview is a pretty good start.
For sure. And thankfully, RoleCatcher gives us some insider tips on prepping for that. They even include sample interview questions.
Yeah, some of them are pretty tough, too. Really make you think.
Oh, what? Give us a sneak peek. What kind of curveball questions might you get in a statistical assistant interview?
Well, imagine being asked to explain the difference between, say, descriptive and inferential statistics.
Okay, standard stuff so far.
But not just from a textbook definition. They want to see how you apply it, connect it to real-world scenarios.
Show them you can actually use this stuff, not just recite it.
Exactly. They want to see that you're a strategic thinker who can, use data to actually solve problems and get results.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of standing out, RoleCatcher also talked about tailoring your resume. You can't just say you're good with data, right?
Right. You've got to show them.
Projects, volunteer work, anything that proves you can walk the walk.
Think of it like your data highlight reel.
Love that. We've covered so much ground here, from like day-to-day tasks to the big picture career stuff. But before we wrap up part 2, let's zoom back in for a second. What does a typical day actually look like for a statistical assistant? Did RoleCatcher shed any light on that?
They do. It's actually pretty cool. They actually walk you through a typical day. And surprise, surprise, it's not all just staring at spreadsheets. Oh, no, not at all. It's way more dynamic than people realize.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a lot of back and forth, between being super meticulous and then having to get creative, like really fast.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Well, 1 minute you could be cleaning and prepping data, getting it all organized.
Right.
And then the next you're like brainstorming, the best way to actually visualize it, make it make sense, tell the story.
So it's like you're part detective, part artist.
100%.
Hmm.
You're digging for the truth in the data, but then you got to present it in a way that's, engaging, easy to understand.
Otherwise, what's the point? Right.
Exactly. And that's where those communication skills come in, the visualization stuff. You might be making charts, graphs, even those fancy interactive dashboards.
The one with all the sliders and stuff.
Yep, all that. It's about making the data sing,
I love that. Okay, so it sounds like continuous learning is, well, pretty continuous in this field. RoleCatcher definitely emphasized that.
Oh, yeah, big time. You can't just coast on that stats degree forever.
So what keeps you sharp?
Well, the field itself is always changing, which is exciting. New tools pop up all the time, new ways of doing things.
So how do you keep up?
RoleCatcher had some good tips on that, staying curious, obviously.
Yeah.
But they also talked about certifications, and even like joining those industry associations.
Like the American Statistical Association.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to plug in, see what's new, what other people are doing.
Stay ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today. The skills, the career paths, even how to rock that interview. But as we wrap things up here, what's the one big takeaway you want to leave folks with?
I think it's this: if you're fascinated by data, if you get a thrill out of finding those hidden connections, using them to help people make smart choices,
Yeah.
being a statistical assistant could be your dream job, seriously.
It's more than just the numbers, though, isn't it?
Right. It's about using those numbers to actually make a difference.
Being a part of something bigger.
Exactly. It's about shaping a smarter future, a data-driven future.
Love it. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of statistical assistants. Big thanks to RoleCatcher.com for the awesome insights. Be sure to check them out, folks. They've got a treasure trove of career info. And as always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy exploring.